Our next topic is a revisiting of the giving and receiving verbs that we looked at previously, so-called yarimorai hyogen in Japanese. The last time we encountered these was back in lesson 14 here in Genki. We had a look at the verbs ageru, kureru, and morau, and we saw that they could be used to describe the giving and receiving of objects. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to use them as helping verbs, and this will allow us to describe the giving and receiving of favors or actions instead, like doing things for others. All the grammar, that is to say the sentence structures that we learned in lesson 14 apply here as well, as do the directionality of each of the verbs, that is to say whom is giving and whom is on the receiving end of things. For a quick review, we learned we could use o ageru when I give or someone gives to someone else. We can use o kureru when someone gives to me or a member of my in-group. And we can use o morau when I receive or someone receives something from someone else. We'll first look at ageru as a helping verb. We'll use that again with the te form of the verb, so te ageru. We'll use this when we do something for the sake of others or when somebody does something for someone else. When ageru is used as a helping verb, the basic meaning remains the same, but there's an added emphasis on the fact that the action is being performed on request or as a favor for that person. To help wrap our heads around how to use these in sentences, we'll give you a couple examples here. We'll compare. This first sentence, 私は妹にお金を貸しました is just an objective statement of fact. I loaned some money to my little sister. Contrasted with this statement, very similar, but you'll notice this here has the addition of the te form and then agemasu as its helping verb. So let's take a look. 私は妹にお金を貸してあげました. So here we can understand this to mean I did my younger sister a favor and loaned her some money. Again, the addition here of the verb ageru at the end is giving us this idea, this concept that we're doing this for someone's benefit. A few other points here for our use of giving and receiving favors. For sentences in which we use verbs of giving and receiving as helping verbs, we have to be careful to use the particles that are required by the main verb, whatever that happens to be. I've mentioned, I think, on a couple occasions, it's a good idea to memorize verbs as pairs, that is to say with the particle or particles that are very commonly used with them. And you have to stick with using those whenever possible. Our second point here is when the main verb is one for which there is no recipient. Examples we give here: iku, benkyou suru, souji suru, taberu, etc. The phrase no tame ni should be used to make clear for whose benefit the action is being performed. To clarify a bit, these verbs, to go, to study, to clean, to eat, all lack a recipient. When we go somewhere, iku, there's no recipient of our going. There's a destination. There's no product or outcome to be received by someone. If I go to the store, I just go to the store. If I study, there's no product of that is received by someone. I get some knowledge, but there's no product, again, or outcome that's changing hands. Similarly with to clean and to eat, there is no recipient for these, and so these are of a slightly different nature. So that when we want to say we're doing these things for someone, we have to be sure to follow the person's name with no tame ni. Let's look at a couple of examples. Watashi wa Tomoko-san no tame ni kaemono ni ikimashita. Note here again, we're using no tame ni with the verb ikimashita. You going shopping for Tomoko, certainly Tomoko can be the recipient of whatever it is you buy there, but the act of going itself doesn't have a recipient. The verb ikimasu, rather, has a destination as its target and not a person. So therefore, we have to use no tame ni. Same thing with our next example. お母さんのために日本語を勉強しています。I'm studying Japanese for my mom because she wants me to. Here as well, no tame ni follows the recipient of the action. Studying is the action, but again, the recipient of studying is the person who's doing the studying. You can do it for someone's sake, so to speak, but there is no again, product or outcome that is being traded or given from one person to another. So we have to use no tame ni with this one as well. For our next example of using ageru as a helping verb, we'll compare one sentence that uses it and the other that does not before moving on to our next one. Let's take a look. 京子さんはトムさんを駅に連れてあげました。Kyoko did Tom a favor and took him to the station. All right, so te ageru did this for someone, did him a favor, versus, again, just kind of the objective statement of fact. 京子さんはトムさんを駅に連れて行きました。Kyoko took Tom to the station. All right, next, kureru, recall, can be used when you or someone in your in-group is the recipient of an object. When using te kureru, kureru is a helping verb here, we'll use that when somebody does something for us or for someone in our in-group. Broadly speaking, the recipient in te kureru sentences is almost always the speaker. If you leave out watashi, the listener or reader will always assume that this is the case. Some examples using kureru to say someone's done something for us. 友達が宿題を手伝ってくれます。友達が宿題を手伝ってくれます。My friend does me a favor and helps me with my homework. If the translation of this sentence into English is not an argument for the very self-centeredness of English as a language, I don't know what is. There are 4 mentions back to me in this sentence. In the Japanese sentence, not a single mention. It's implied or understood from context because we're using kuremasu. Let's look at another example. 親戚がクッキーを送ってくれました。親戚がクッキーを送ってくれました。My relatives did me a favor and sent cookies. おいしそう。And finally, morao, when used as a helping verb along with the te form of the action that's being given as a favor to someone, we can use te morao to state that we or someone gets, persuades, or arranges for somebody to do something for us or for them. The person performing the action is marked with the particle ni. Our third point here is a reminder. Recall from lesson 14 that in a morao sentence, the recipient is the subject of the sentence, whereas it's the opposite for a kureru sentence. That is to say, the giver is the subject of the sentence. We'll see again how this plays out in the examples. 私は友達に宿題を手伝ってもらいました。I got a friend to help me with my homework. Here again, when using moraimasu as our helping verb with the te form of a verb, it has a connotation of this idea that the assistance was requested by the receiver, that you needed help and somehow either begged for help, asked for help, or maybe forced somebody into helping you in some way or another. So keep that in mind as you go forward and use moraimasu as a helping verb. Additionally, you can also say the same thing basically in the kuremasu sentence. In this version, you're the recipient, and that is unvoiced here, as you may recall, right? At the start of the morao sentence, we have watashi. right? And in the start of the kurema sentence, we are lacking watashi. Again, it's understood to be you or someone in your in-group because you're using kuremas, right? So, 友達が宿題を手伝ってくれました. In this particular version, there's no idea that you had to ask for or sort of convince the other person to do it. This is just simply they did you a favor and they helped you with your homework. Some examples using もらう. 先生にこの漢字の読み方を教えてもらいました. I had the teacher tell me how to read this kanji. That's a beast, that kanji is. カレーを作るから姉にスーパーに野菜を買いに行ってもらった。カレーを作るから姉にスーパーに野菜を買いに行ってもらった。I'm going to make curry, so I had my older sister go to the supermarket to buy veggies. This sentence sort of implies that you were going through the list of ingredients, you found you were missing some things, and you had to ask your sister, hey, could you go to the grocery store and pick these things up for me? All right, let's move on to our practice. This practice exercise is taken directly from the Genki 2 second edition textbook. You can find this on page 108. The idea here is your friend has fallen ill, and what are some of the things you could do for him? So we'll go through a list of 10 things that you might do for your friend who is not feeling well. I'll ask you to pause the video while you see if you can come up with the sentence in Japanese. Unpause when you want to see if you got the answer right. Here we go. Using the te ageru, that's using ageru as a helping verb here. How would you say, I would help my friend with his homework? Pause the video here. Shukudai o tetsudatte agemasu. Now, we've left the recipient of this favor out, but if you want to be explicit and make the full sentence, we would say, 友達に宿題を手伝ってあげます. I'm offering my help on homework to my friend. So that's the same for all of the ones that follow as well. You would start with 友達に and then finish the sentence. The other ones that follow will be sort of in the short version like this. How would you tell your friend, I'm going to correct your report for you? Pause the video here. レポートを直してあげます. レポートを直してあげます. Buy flowers for him. How would you say, I'm going to buy flowers for him? Pause the video here. 花を買ってあげます. 花を買ってあげます. Take him to the hospital. Pause the video here. 病院に連れて行ってあげます. 病院に連れて行ってあげます. Do laundry for him. Pause the video here. 洗濯をしてあげます. 洗濯してあげます. Clean his room for him. Pause the video here. 部屋を掃除してあげます. Lend him your notebook. Pause the video here. ノートを貸してあげます. Send an email to his teacher. Pause the video here. 先生にメールを送ってあげます. Go to a bank and withdraw money? This sounds kind of iffy. Pause here. 銀行に行ってお金を下ろしてあげます. This is a favor to who exactly? Do the dishes for him. Pause the video here. お皿を洗ってあげます. What a nice friend you are. All right, we'll switch gears here. This exercise can also be found directly in the textbook, Genki, on page 109. For this time, there's going to be a person pictured on the upper left-hand side of each slide. We'll imagine that they've done something nice for you and have you describe those things using te kureru and te morau sentences. So they'll both be displayed. I'll have you pause each time and see if you can come up with those sentences. Again, keep in mind the different particles that will be used for a te kureru sentence and a te morau sentence. Here we go. All right, your host mother. ご飯を作る. So your host mother has made dinner for you. How would you say, my host mother made dinner for me, using, in this case, kuremasu for the first one. Pause here, unpause when you're ready to learn the answer. お母さんがご飯を作ってくれました. Next, how would you say that using もらう instead of くれます? Pause the video here. お母さんにご飯を作ってもらいました. Again, things to note, the different particles. くれます, whenever there's a giver in the sentence, a doer always comes with ga as its particle. In もらう sentences, we have to use ni for the person who's doing the giving. Next, 部屋を掃除する. Mom, clean my room for me. How would you say using a くれる sentence? Pause here. お母さんが部屋を掃除してくれました. And now, how would you say using もらう? Pause the video here. お母さんに部屋を掃除してもらいました. 洗濯する. Mom did the laundry for me. So nice. How would you say that using くれる? Pause here. お母さんが洗濯をしてくれました. And now using もらう. Pause here. お母さんに洗濯をしてもらいました. アイロンをかける. Mom ironed your clothes for you. All right, using くれる. Pause here. お母さんがアイロンをかけてくれました. Now using もらう. Pause here. お母さんにアイロンをかけてもらいました. 迎えに来る. Mom came to meet you at the airport or at school or something like that. All right, using くれる. Pause here. お母さんが迎えに来てくれました. And now using もらう. Pause here. お母さんに迎えに来てもらいました. All right, we'll change this up. Your friend is now the person who did you the favor. We have 4 more actions for you to express using くれる and もらう. The first one here, コーヒーをおごる. Treated you to or bought you some coffee. Using くれる first. Pause the video here. 友達がコーヒーをおごってくれました. Now using もらう. Pause the video here. 友達にコーヒーをおごってもらいました. 京都に連れて行く. Your friend is going to show you around or take you to Kyoto. How would you say using くれる? Pause the video here. 友達が京都に連れて行ってくれました. And now using もらう. Pause the video here. 友達に京都に連れて行ってもらいました. セーターを編む. Your friend knitted you a sweater. How very nice. How would you say using くれる? Pause the video here. 友達がセーターを編んでくれました. And now using もらう. Pause the video here. 友達にセーターを編んでもらいました。家族の写真を見せる。Your friend showed you photos of her family. Using kureru first, pause the video here. 友達が家族の写真を見せてくれました。And now using morau. Pause the video here. 友達に家族の写真を見せてもらいました。And finally, a stranger. 案内する is what they're doing for you. 案内する is to show someone around, to guide someone. So imagine you're on the street and you're lost, and someone takes the time to show you where you need to go. That would be 案内. All right, a stranger showed me around using kuremasu. Pause the video here. 知らない人が案内をしてくれました。Now using もらう. Pause here. 知らない人に案内をしてもらいました。道を教える。道を教える is, 道 is of course street, and 教える is to teach or tell. This would be to give directions to somebody. Literally, they taught you the roads on how to get there, the paths, if you will, on how to get there. All right, how would you say, a stranger showed me how to get there? Using kureru first. Pause the video here. 知らない人が道を教えてくれました。Next, using もらう. Pause here. 知らない人に道を教えてもらいました。荷物を持つ to hold your luggage for you. Okay, using kureru first. Please pause the video here. 知らない人が荷物を持ってくれました。優しいね。Next, using もらう. Pause here, please. 知らない人に荷物を持ってもらいました。100円を貸す。A stranger loaned me 100 yen. Ah, very nice. Using くれる first. Pause here. 知らない人が100円を貸してくれました。Next, using もらう. Pause here. 知らない人に100円を貸してもらいました。Alright, that concludes our look at using てあげる, てくれる, and てもらう to indicate when you're giving a favor to or doing something for someone else as a favor. 皆さん勉強頑張ってね。